There's a moment in this episode where we get to see two characters, one of which we met seemingly last week. And at the end of this episode, we see the second one. And that has me very interested in Takt's backstory because clearly were the ones, if memory is to be believed in what this kid remembers. Granted, traumatized children may not remember things exactly the way that we are being presented them in the anime. But it seems like there's a sort of connection there that's deeper than at first glance, and that has me pretty excited for the remaining half of this anime. And overall, I had to wait a little bit because the subtitles were wonky on the Crunchyroll video. They were timed very incorrectly. I heard they got fixed pretty quickly after the initial release, but you know what, they were wonky, so I said, you know what, we'll take a little break here, we'll come back the next day. And seriously, I imagine this will be an episode that won't get the same type of buzz as the big action set pieces of Talk Up Destiny, but for me personally, this is one of the most personality-filled episodes, if not the most personal episode, that the anime's seen to date. From Takt's piano playing to kind of Destiny's, really opening up and feeling like a person more so than just a killing machine who's very hungry. You just really get a sense of what characters are made of, and they feel like a person by the end of this episode. Pretty early on into the show, once we realized, what was going on with Cosette and how she ended up dying, became Destiny, my assumption was, something along the lines of, they might be able to bring Cosette back, but it'll be at the cost of Destiny's life, or they'll go the direction of Destiny giving her life to protect Takt, and in return, that will probably be an emotional sequence because it's clear as day that Destiny will become a person. She'll develop a personality, and it won't be just the same robot mundane persona that she started out as, given the transformation and everything like that. It's essentially like being born fresh again and having to learn everything day in and day out. So for me, it was no real surprise that her main, obsession was killing D2s and eating tasty pastries, right? But to see an episode like this, where you really get a sense of inside her psyche and how she cares about her big sister Anna, and she really loves seeing how passionate Takt is about playing and how we get some more confirmation about what the maestro is kind of doing in the middle of the battles. She kind of explains it as, when he plays the piano, it's essentially the same thing as him conducting me to fight. He's putting his passion into me, which is pretty much the energy that's draining from him. They kind of get a sense that the conductor is pretty much as important as when you're at an orchestra and they're instructing what each and every instrument should be doing. It's just in this case there's one instrument, and that instrument is Cosette/Destiny herself, right? It just felt like watching an episode where we weren't broke down, stranded, or anything like that. It literally started as we're going to go pick up some items that we need, food and utilities, whatever we need here. And it in return started to a milk order, to then meeting up with a mother who's unable to process the death of her daughter. So in return, she views Anna as her daughter. And you just kind of get this sense of personality and human nature, especially from a character who really hasn't felt like a person ever since the backstory, because the backstory was very night and day between Cosette and Destiny, and because they're two very separate people. But to see Destiny start to open up in the way that she did over this episode, it really gave me the sense that my gut reaction that there's going to be a potential death or sacrifice between Takt and her very much seems like it's going to happen, especially given the fact that she seemingly does care for him, despite maybe, making fun and poking fun, which is another trait I've liked seeing her open up, the way she cracks jokes throughout it. The episode literally kicks off with him, kind of flabbergasted that she made a joke about anything other than food, which was pretty hilarious. Though I will say my overall favorite part of the episode had to be our boy and how he ends up kind of stumbling upon an underground bar that still plays music. They have a piano and instruments in the back, but mostly it's just people come day in and day out, the regulars, they drink and they listen to classical jazz and things like that. And to see, the connections that they had to his father, and especially this one man who only played with him one time, but you could tell that was really everything to him. And ever since the world kind of went to shit, you can't play music, the father's no longer there, just everything about it just felt like they pretty much were living in the past, because honestly, the past was great this time around. It wasn't like those old timers reminiscing about the past and realizing that, things change naturally, but every time period is good. No, there's a clear difference of their current time period and the time period that came to pass. And I mean, seriously, it was interesting seeing him reveal and open up because he has a lot of personality. It's just he hides a lot of his emotion. And the only time he really opens up and drops the guard is when he plays piano, and you see him smiling and you see every bit of passion pour into those keys. And even Destiny herself recognizes that the amount of passion that comes off of someone who's usually very cold and distant, when you put a piano underneath his fingertips, it's a completely different beast, right? And to see everyone in that room go from kind of okay to pure on depression to lighting up, seeing the father inside him, knowing that the music will live on in the next generation. It's just, those are the types of moments for me that I always look forward to in any sort of music anime. The last one that I really watched that kind of had that like wow factor with characters really embracing their music was actually something Carol and Tuesday, which is from the creator of Cowboy Bebop. And it was just like, there's so many moments that are just like drop dead powerful with the characters performing. But I really like how Talk Up Destiny does it as well, especially in that scene where they're all just lighting up and, you know, Anna and Cosette / Destiny come in and they're just witnessing what's happening. It was just a really beautiful and powerful moment, and I still love how they animate him playing the piano because I've seen so many anime where, like, they're literally, like, every episode playing the piano, and it's just, like, it doesn't even come close to, like, how accurate I feel like it feels that Talk as a character is actually hitting those keys without it feeling like, oh, look at that janky character model. It looks so off from his normal one, right? And I mean, just look at, if you don't know what I'm talking about, just go to YouTube, look at bad animated piano scenes in anime, you'll find a whole bunch. It's pretty off-putting, but I love how this anime has been doing it every single time he's went behind a piano, which has been a handful of times, all things considered. It's not like he just hits it one time a couple of times. No, they really do go into that animation, and I mean, from the music itself, I mean, as soon as he went into that bar and you heard the classical music, you know, you heard the rough patches on the vinyl, it just felt so good. It felt like we were hit with that nostalgia. And I really love how the music, especially the background music, has been incorporated because you don't get to hear it too often because, well, that's the whole point of the story, is that the D2s are attracted to it. But when you do get to hear it, you kind of feel as just blown away as the main character who we know has a passion for that. And it really adds an extra level of love, I find, to an already pretty passion-filled series. I mean, for me, we're now halfway through this show, and it's without a doubt something that I think is going to stick out from this past year. And there's been a lot of really good shows, whether full-on original, slightly based off games or stories, this or that. But there's something about shows like these that just, they really feel quite different despite having similarities to different anime that I've seen before. But there's something about how a character like Tak easily could have been someone with no personality, just very monotone. Even when he plays the piano, he has a little smirk. But no, there's a lot of depression for a kid who, you know, he lost a lot, from family to potential love interest to his literal hobby that gave him joy, to a character who had so much personality stripped away, became a new entity and has to learn to, you know, grow up in a world that she has to fight in, and the people around her, one treat her as a sister who's no longer there, and another treats her as less than human, which is probably something she doesn't want. I find there's a lot of personality and it wears its heart on its sleeve, especially in episodes like these, so of course, as always, I'm excited for more, but let me know your thoughts down below. What did you think of episode 6, and how excited are you for episode 7? Leave a like if you enjoyed, and subscribe if you're new around here. So until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.